The garage that once made millions on TV is now a place filled with broken dreams. The star who built the empire was hit with a $6 million lawsuit from his own business partners. His right-hand man collapsed under pressure and ended up with $750,000 in debt after a mysterious fire destroyed everything he owned. The woman who worked at the front desk disappeared without any explanation because she was secretly dealing with a painful diagnosis. One painter left the show so quietly that fans didn't even notice he was gone for months. Another had his own shop taken away from him by the very person he trusted. What looked like success on television was actually a slow disaster happening behind the scenes. Richard Rawlings didn't start out famous. He built his name slowly, car by car. When he started Gas Monkey Garage in 2002, it was just another custom car shop in Texas. But 10 years later everything changed. In 2012, Fast and Loud premiered on Discovery Channel and turned his life upside down. Rawlings wasn't just fixing cars anymore. He was creating a brand that became loud, bold, and everywhere. The show ran for more than 10 years, brought in millions of viewers, and made him a well-known businessman. But behind the engines and excitement, things were not always steady. In 2018, problems came from inside his own circle. His partners from Gas Monkey Bar and Grill sued him for $6 million, saying he had damaged their reputation and broken their contract. The case continued for years. While the cameras kept filming, the legal paperwork kept piling up. Rawlings didn't stay quiet. He filed his own lawsuit accusing them of misusing the Gas Monkey name. By August 2021, both sides finally ended the battle. The place was renamed Amplified Live. The Gas Monkey name was removed completely, and just like that, a piece of his empire was gone. Even then, Rawlings didn't stop. By 2025, his net worth was around $25 million. It didn't all come from the garage or the TV show. He had other businesses like Gas Monkey Sturgis in South Dakota and the new Gas Monkey Ice House, which opened in May 2025 near Dallas. The garage still builds wild custom cars, and his YouTube channel posts new videos every week. Fans still watch, still buy his merch, and still support him. In 2024, he made headlines again when he spent around $100,000 at Barrett-Jackson on a custom Dedamaso Pantera built by the Ring brothers. That car wasn't just pricey, it was rare. It showed that Rawlings was still involved in the high-end car world, not just as a brand but as a true car lover. However, the journey wasn't perfect. Some projects failed. In one episode, he lost money on his C10 pickup when it sold for less than he invested. His expression said everything: shock, disappointment, and maybe regret. There were also fights over trademark rights, claims of fake merchandise, and rumors about how he treated his business partners. The controversies kept coming, but so did he. Aaron Kaufman never wanted fame. He just wanted to build things that worked. But once Fast and Loud became a hit, he turned into more than a mechanic. He became the quiet, talented force behind Gas Monkey Garage. Fans loved him because he stayed calm even when everything around him was chaos. But inside, that calm was falling apart. From the first season, the workload was brutal. They built 12 cars in 24 weeks, and he worked around 110 hours a week. Sometimes he fell asleep inside the cars he was working on, and they still filmed it. He spent 14 hours a week commuting and then walked into a shop full of pressure and non-stop deadlines. Fans saw cool cars and dramatic scenes. He felt panic attacks and exhaustion. After one surgery, he returned to filming just 3 days later. It wasn't dedication, it was survival. The lowest moment came in 2017 during a rush truck build. Aaron pointed out serious safety issues, but Richard wanted drama for the show and pushed for a risky test drive anyway. The truck nearly came apart. Aaron knew how badly it could have ended. At that moment he understood that the show didn't belong to him. He didn't own the builds, the brand, or even his own image. Later he said it felt like a creative prison. Fans thought he was making millions, but in reality he earned around $35,000 per episode. While people were buying merchandise with his face on it, he was secretly training the person who would replace him. In March 2017, he posted a simple message on Facebook saying he was leaving Gas Monkey. Fans were shocked, but privately he had already disconnected. He said the last 5 years felt like 20. What followed wasn't a peaceful exit. Everything fell apart. Lawsuits started coming in. His health gave him problems. His finances collapsed. He opened a new shop called ArcLight Fabrication because he wanted to create something honest this time. But then a fire destroyed everything due to faulty wiring he had installed himself to save money. He had to sell his 1963 Ford Falcon just to pay his employees. He fell into $750,000 of debt. But he didn't give up. A business partner stepped in with $400,000 to keep the shop open, keep the lights running, and keep the dream alive. Christy Brimberry joined Gas Monkey Garage in 2012 because her husband happened to be Richard Rawlings' hairstylist. That one random connection changed her life. Richard didn't need another mechanic. He needed someone who could organize the chaos, handle paperwork, deal with customers, and keep the shop running smoothly. Christy became the person who kept everything moving. He needed someone who could tame chaos, handle invoices, track down parts, manage salaries, push paperwork, calm storms, and keep the entire operation from exploding. Christy said yes, sat at that front desk, and became the anchor. In a shop full of oil, fire, and testosterone, she didn't just sit behind a screen. Christy ran the show. She juggled build schedules, kept the books straight, tracked every car deal Rawlings made, and locked horns with anyone who got in her way. In a place where yelling was common and deadlines were deadly, she held her ground. She filmed 55 episodes of Fast and Loud. And while most fans came for the cars, many stayed for Christy's sharp one-liners and raised eyebrows. She wasn't background. She was backbone. But then without warning, she disappeared. Fans noticed. The front office was quiet. The Instagram posts slowed down. Nobody knew why until 2017. When the truth came out. In 2016, right in the middle of filming, Christy was hit with something that shook her entire life. Thyroid cancer. The diagnosis came fast. So did the surgery. Doctors had to perform an emergency procedure that risked damaging her vocal cords, leaving her barely able to speak for weeks. After that came radiation, and after that, silence. She didn't post. She didn't show up. She fought the battle in private. By the time fans learned what happened, she was already deep in recovery. The hair started coming back. So did her voice. And by the end of 2021, Christy was declared cancer-free. But the garage chapter was over. She never returned to Gas Monkey, not in the same way. The show moved on without her. But she didn't just fade out. She flipped the script. She leaned into something completely different. With her husband, Aaron Brimberry, by her side, she built an entirely new online presence. She grew a following of over 1 million, not because of engines or auctions, but because people saw the same fire she showed in the garage, this time in yoga pants or airport selfies. Sue Martin. For over 20 years, Sue Martin was quietly running ASM Auto A upholstery in Dallas long before anyone from TV ever walked through her doors. She built her name the old-fashioned way. Stitch by stitch, build by build. Earning a local reputation for turning broken down seats into showpieces. Whether it was a rusted-out Cadillac or a fresh high-end build, Sue delivered. Every time her name started floating around the Dallas car scene past, between gearheads and restorers like a trusted secret. That's how Richard Rawlings heard of her. In 2012, he showed up needing a job done fast. She didn't just take it, she nailed it. And when the fast and loud crew saw her work, they knew they had something rare. What made Sue stand out wasn't just her craft. It was the way she talked. No sugarcoating, no fake TV smile, just grit, wit, and a signature line that stuck with viewers from the first time they heard it. Why you bring me junk? It wasn't written by a producer. It was just Sue being Sue. And that made it unforgettable. She wasn't playing a character. She was doing her job on camera the same way she had off camera. Late nights, long hours, sometimes sleeping in her shop just to make deadlines. What fans never saw was how often she had to pause real work just so the crew could move lights around or make her repeat something for the camera. She didn't like that part, but she never let it mess with the quality. Her standards didn't drop. They only got sharper. But not everything behind the scenes stayed friendly, especially when a big job went sideways in season 3. Not because of her work, but because of what others at the garage messed up. Sue didn't take the fall, and she didn't pretend to be okay with it. Her on-camera tension with the crew wasn't just for drama. It was real. She later admitted she wasn't a fan of many of the gas monkey mechanics. She had good reason. To her, this wasn't just a TV show. It was her name, her shop, her reputation. He needed someone who could control the chaos, handle invoices, track down parts, manage salaries, organize paperwork, calm stressful moments, and keep the entire operation from falling apart. Christy agreed to the job, sat at the front desk, and instantly became the one steady point in a shop filled with oil, fire, noise, and strong personalities. She didn't just sit behind a computer. Christy practically ran the entire place. She balanced build schedules, kept the finances clean, tracked every car deal Richard made, and argued with anyone who stood in her way. In a shop where yelling was common and deadlines were intense, she stood firm and didn't let anyone push her around. She appeared in 55 episodes of Fast and Loud, and even though many fans watched the show for the cars, a lot of them ended up loving Christy's sharp comments and expressive reactions. She wasn't a background character. She was the backbone of the shop. Then, without warning, she was gone. Fans noticed her absence quickly. Her desk was empty, and her posts on social media slowed down. No one knew the reason until 2017 when the truth finally came out. In 2016, right in the middle of filming, Christy received news that changed her entire life. She was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Everything happened fast. She needed emergency surgery, and the procedure was risky. Doctors had to operate near her vocal cords, and the surgery left her barely able to speak for weeks. After that came radiation treatment, and then long periods of silence. She stopped posting. She stopped appearing. She chose to fight the battle privately. By the time her fans found out what had happened, she was already deep into her recovery. Slowly her hair returned, her voice grew stronger, and by the end of 2021, Christy was officially cancer-free. But her time at the garage had ended. She never returned to Gas Monkey in the same way. The show continued without her, but Christie didn't fade away. She turned her life in a new direction. With her husband, Darren Brimberry, supporting her, she created a brand new online presence. She gained a following of more than 1 million people, not because of cars, but because people connected with the same strong personality she showed in the garage, this time through workout videos, daily life updates, and travel photos. Sue Martin had been running ASM Auto Upholstery in Dallas for more than 20 years, long before television walked through her doors. She built her reputation the old-fashioned way, stitch by stitch, project by project, turning worn-out seats into beautiful interior work. Whether it was an old, beat-up Cadillac or a fresh high-end custom build, Sue always delivered. Her name quietly spread through the Dallas car community, passed around by mechanics and restorers who trusted her work. That's how Richard Rawlings eventually heard about her. In 2012, he showed up needing a job done quickly. She didn't just accept the job, she absolutely crushed it. When the fast and loud crew saw her talent, they knew she was someone special. What made Sue stand out wasn't just her skill. It was her personality. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She didn't pretend for the cameras. She spoke her mind every time, and viewers loved it. Her famous line, "Why you bring me junk," wasn't written by anyone. It was just Sue being herself, and that honesty made her unforgettable. She wasn't acting. She was simply doing her everyday job while cameras captured it. She worked late nights, long hours, and sometimes slept in her shop to meet deadlines. But what fans never saw was how often her real work had to stop because the production crew needed to adjust lights or make her repeat something for the show. She didn't enjoy that part, but she didn't let it lower her standards. If anything, it made her more determined to keep her quality high. However, not everything behind the scenes stayed friendly, especially after a major project went wrong in season 3. The problem wasn't caused by her work, it was because of mistakes made by others in the garage. Sue refused to take the blame, and she didn't pretend to be okay with the situation. The tension viewers saw between her and some of the gas monkey mechanics wasn't for drama. It was real. She later admitted she wasn't a fan of many people working there. She had good reasons. For her, this wasn't just TV. It was her shop, her name, and her lifelong reputation on the line. Every stitch had to be perfect. Every job had to be clean. So when other people made mistakes that affected her work, she didn't pretend everything was fine. She pushed back. The show never gave Sue a dramatic exit or a special goodbye. There was no final episode celebrating her. But people who worked close to the production said the real reason was simple: money. Sue wasn't a paid cast member. She was a business owner. And when it stopped making financial sense to pay her what she truly deserved, Gas Monkey stopped calling. But that didn't slow her down at all. After the show, her business kept growing. Her phone kept ringing. Her reputation became even stronger. People continued to want Sue Martin, not because she was on TV, but because she never let the show change the way she worked. Mike Coy was only 15 when he got his first taste of working on cars. He didn't do it for fame, he did it because he couldn't imagine doing anything else. That was back in 1992. By the time he turned 20, he already owned his own hot rod shop in Texas called Texas Street Rods. At his shop, every paint job had to be perfect or it didn't leave the building. People noticed his dedication. Car magazines featured his work. He won awards at SEMA. That's how Richard Rawlings eventually discovered him. In 2014, Richard brought Coy into Gas Monkey Garage. Fast and Loud was already a hit on Discovery, but when Coy's steady hands began laying down paint, the cars transformed. They didn't just go fast, they looked expensive. His paint jobs became a signature part of the show's style. One of the best examples was the 1949 Chevy 3100. It sold for 6 figures and later doubled in value. That kind of quality couldn't be faked, and fans recognized it immediately. Between 2014 and 2017, Coy worked on almost every car that left the shop. He wasn't just polishing metal, he was becoming part of the brand. And that brand came with limits. When Coy left in 2017, fans were caught off guard. The show was at its peak with more than 130 episodes on the air. But behind the scenes, the pressure was intense. Discovery's contracts were extremely strict. Coy later revealed that he couldn't even post photos of cars he painted without getting approval first. His work, his name, his tools, everything was tied to studio rules. For someone who built his entire career in an independent shop, it felt suffocating. Then came the quiet years. After he left the show, Coy disappeared from the spotlight and went through personal struggles. He got divorced. His health declined. His weight dropped so noticeably that fans began to speculate he had cancer. He never confirmed anything, and maybe that was intentional. He didn't want to explain himself to the world. He moved to El Paso, far away from the flash of Dallas, and started over from nothing. No social media posts, no interviews, just paint, hard work, and silence. And for years, that was his entire life. Then suddenly, 2024 changed everything. Netflix released a new series called Tex-Mex Motors. At the center of it was Mike Coy. He was the same man, with the same skill and determination, but this time without any fake drama. The show focused on honest builds, border town stories, and real car culture. Viewers loved it. The series quickly climbed into the top 10 in both the US and the UK. People didn't just remember him, they missed him. When Fast and Loud first hit TV in 2012, most viewers focused on the fast cars, loud engines, and wild chaos happening inside the garage. But behind all that noise was a quiet guy with a paint gun and steady hands. Casey Matthew didn't yell, didn't act for the cameras, and didn't try to steal attention. He didn't have to. His work spoke louder than any burnout or revved-up motor. From the start, it was obvious that if Gas Monkey Garage was going to look good on screen, it would be because of the flawless, mirror-smooth paint jobs Casey sprayed with calm, steady confidence. And long before the cameras showed up, Casey was already deep in the craft. Growing up in Crowley, Texas, he began painting cars at just 12 years old in his father's auto shop. While other kids were out gaming or hanging with friends, Casey was in the shop learning to lay down perfect lines under harsh lights and Texas heat. That early grind shaped him. By the time Richard Rawlings came roaring in with big ideas, big budgets, and even bigger cameras, Casey had already earned a strong reputation. He owned Casey's paint shop and was known around Texas for paintwork so clean that people joked it didn't even look real. Richard knew talent when he saw it. He needed someone who could take the builds to the next level. So when Fast and Loud started filming, Casey wasn't just brought in to help, he was brought in to elevate the entire look of the show. It didn't take long for him to move from guest painter to the main person trusted with the final finish on almost every build. As the show exploded in popularity, the pressure grew. Fans began lining up outside the shop during lunch breaks just hoping to meet him. Casey couldn't go anywhere without being stopped for autographs and photos. The builds became more ambitious, the timeline shorter, and the cameras never stopped. What had once been pure passion was now a non-stop sprint with no breaks, no quiet, and no time to breathe. Casey never wanted fame. So when the spotlight became too intense, he stepped away. In October 2015, without any dramatic fight, without yelling or emotional scenes, he simply left. Not because he was angry, but because he was exhausted. 3.5 years of constant filming had drained him. He wanted peace again. He wanted time with his family. And he wanted to paint because he loved it, not because a TV crew needed a story. Most reality TV personalities fade away after leaving a show. Not Casey. He didn't disappear, he rebuilt. He reopened Casey's paint shop, moved into a larger industrial building, and slowly put together a strong new team. He wasn't working alone with a spray gun anymore. His shop grew to 9 employees who handled everything from painting and fabrication to business paperwork and branding. They started doing full restorations, hot rod builds, and custom projects for real clients instead of rushing through jobs for television deadlines. Some years they completed a dozen service projects plus 2 or 3 full builds from the ground up. And every project was done properly, carefully, skillfully, and beautifully, not fast for ratings. Scott McMillan didn't choose to be in the spotlight either. In 2012, when Fast and Loud was gaining momentum, he was brought onto the team not because of Richard Rawlings, but because of his long-standing friendship with Aaron Kaufman. Scott made it clear from day one that he wasn't there for Richard at all. He told Aaron straight out that he didn't work for Richard, he worked for him, and that one sentence didn't just upset people, it shook the whole foundation of the shop. His honesty wasn't the kind of polished drama TV usually wants, but it gave fans a real look at what was happening behind the scenes. By the time Misfit Garage launched in 2014, that quiet tension had turned into something explosive. Misfit Garage was advertised as the rebellious rival to Gas Monkey. Scott joined Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, who were both fired from Gas Monkey, and together they created Fired Up Garage as the center of the new show. It was promoted as a bold challenge to Richard's growing empire, and fans were immediately hooked. But while viewers watched the cars, the real issues were happening off camera. It wasn't just about fixing old engines. It was about leadership, decisions, and personalities that didn't mix. Scott lasted only one season. In 2015, when the show was finally gaining momentum, a huge argument broke out over how to restore a 1967 Chevy Camaro. It wasn't a small disagreement that could be ignored. It became so heated that Scott and another builder, Austin, walked out right in the middle of the season. They didn't finish the episode, didn't talk to the cameras, and didn't make dramatic speeches. They simply left. Their sudden exit sent the production team into panic mode, trying to cover the missing gaps, and fans were left shocked. But even when the cameras turned off, Scott didn't disappear. He went back to real work, the kind done without scripts or staged conflicts. He rebuilt his reputation at Scott Rod's Garage in Fort Worth, Texas. He focused on custom projects that required imagination and skill, building everything from hot rods to trucks and even a pirate ship. But the trouble from Fired Up Garage followed the shop for years. The crew that was supposed to be the underdog challengers slowly split apart. Partners left one after another until fans began to wonder if the shop could survive at all. Through all of it, Scott stayed steady. He didn't chase fame, sponsorships, or the reality TV spotlight. He went back to the basics, working with his own hands, doing the work he believed in. And fans who watched him from the beginning never forgot how quickly everything changed for him. Jason Acker had a completely different journey. He wasn't interested in drama or competition. He was interested in perfection. Before Fast and Loud became popular, Jason was already deeply involved in high-end restoration work. He didn't show off and didn't seek attention from the cameras. But whenever Gas Monkey Garage took on a rare or historically important car, especially vintage Mustangs or Shelbys, Jason was often the one trusted to make sure every piece matched the original standards. One of his biggest achievements was restoring the 1966 Shelby GT350 with the serial number 001. That car didn't just win awards, it won the highest honors in the classic car world, including the Shelby American Automobile Club Premier Award and the Mustang Club of America Gold Cup. It was even displayed at Pebble Beach in 2012, an honor given only to the finest cars in the world. What set Jason apart was his dedication to accuracy. While others worried about deadlines or making good TV moments, Jason could spend an entire day working on a single part. He didn't believe in shortcuts. He studied original manuals, factory drawings, and the knowledge passed down from legendary restorers like John Brown and Bob Gaines. When Fast and Loud ended in 2020, Jason had already made his quiet exit. He didn't film a farewell scene or promote his departure online. He refused offers for merchandise, YouTube channels, and sponsor deals. Instead, he moved back to Oklahoma and opened a private shop where he works at his own pace. He now takes only a couple of projects each year, mostly for collectors who find him through personal recommendations. He is known for redoing entire sections of a car because the reflection in the paint wasn't perfect, even after inspections. His shop doesn't have a big sign, and he doesn't do tours for social media. But inside, rare Corvettes, Shelbys, and European classics are rebuilt with a level of care most people never see anymore. Jason doesn't need a big platform. His work itself is the platform, and the people who understand quality know exactly who he is. Dwayne Phipps grew up in a world of tools, engines, and long workdays. Before Gas Monkey became famous and before Fast and Loud ever existed, Dwayne was already the kind of mechanic who could take apart a vehicle without thinking and put it back together like it was second nature. He didn't learn from watching shows. He learned from his father, Larry Phipps, who opened Phipps Automotive in 1973. Back then, repairing cars was about honesty and skill, not fame. The shop became a steady part of the community, a place where regular people brought their trucks and car lovers brought their special builds. In 2002, everything changed when Richard Rawlings opened Gas Monkey Garage right next door. Dwayne was the first to welcome him, and they shook hands like two neighbors who knew something big was about to happen. From that moment, the two shops operated almost like family. Dwayne handled the fast repairs and essential jobs that kept people moving, while Gas Monkey focused on the big, flashy builds designed for cameras. But behind the scenes of nearly every major reveal was Dwayne, making quick fixes, patching problems, and saving projects at the last minute. In 2004, tragedy hit when Larry Phipps passed away after a long illness. The grief was quiet but deep, the kind that settles into a place and doesn't leave. Still, Dwayne kept his father's dream alive. He kept the shop running, kept serving customers, and kept the family name strong. But over the years, the industry changed. Gas Monkey became a brand. Discovery Channel turned cars into entertainment. In 2014, after more than a decade of being the heart of the shop, Dwayne finally closed Phipps Automotive. He didn't quit the industry or give up. Instead, he sold the shop to Richard Rawlings, ending an era that had lasted more than 40 years. Russell J. Holmes entered Fast and Loud in 2019, and viewers were unsure what to think of him at first. He didn't arrive with decades of engine work or welding skills like many others on the show. He came with a different kind of strength. He had worked more than 20 years in construction, running large crews and fixing problems that required quick decisions and clear thinking. His job wasn't to restore muscle cars. His job was to rebuild broken garages, the kind filled with rusty machines, leaking chemicals, and years of chaos. When the producers needed someone to bring order to the madness for garage rehab, Russell didn't hesitate. He stepped in with confidence. He worked without scripts, without detailed plans, and sometimes without knowing what he would do until the moment he stepped into a building. He once said that he had no idea where to start until he walked into the shop. That wasn't arrogance. That was experience, years of walking into messy situations as a construction leader and even as a volunteer EMT captain, where hesitating could cost lives. He could look at a shop full of broken equipment and decide instantly what needed to be removed, what needed to stay, and how to rebuild the space so it could function again. Some people tried to compare him to Aaron Kaufman, the bearded expert who helped make Gas Monkey famous, but Russell was not trying to replace him. He was there to offer something completely different. Interestingly, Russell had already been a fan of Richard Rawlings long before he joined the show. He saw a Facebook post searching for a construction specialist and responded. He thought his beard might be a problem, but the producers told him to keep it because it added to his personality. After Garage Rehab ended, Russell didn't disappear like many reality TV stars. He took his skills into new shows. On Renovation Impossible, he helped families rebuild their homes with very small budgets, sometimes less than $50,000, and still managed to bring hope and stability to people who needed it. He also joined Hometown Kickstart, where he worked on restoring small businesses and community spaces. He didn't just fix walls or repair floors. He gave people confidence that their lives could improve again.